Yo, what up? Welcome back to another quick Flutter tutorial. In this one, I'm going to show you how you can make this sleek UI design using Flutter. Now, just before we start, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, which is Rotato. I'm sure you have all seen in all of my intros, I love using Rotato to showcase my work. I'll link it below, so make sure to check them out. I've opened up a brand new Flutter project, and just to keep everyone on the same page, in my main function, I'm running my app, which brings us to this song page, which is just a stateful widget returning a blank scaffold. So it should just be a white blank app like this. And for this UI, just to spice things up, I'm going to use a kind of Neumorphic theme. So let me show you real quick. In the body, in the center, let's just create a container with a height of 100 and a width of 100 as well. And in the decoration of this container, let's give it a color that is slightly gray. So there's our little container. And for the background of the scaffold, I'm actually also going to make it the same gray and use the shadows to create this like 3D effect. So if you look at this box shadow, it wants a list of box shadows, and specifically I'm going to put in two shadows here. So the first one is a darker shadow on the bottom right, and the next one is a lighter shadow on the top left. So this should create like a 3D feel of like a light shining down on our app. And so for the first shadow, we want to make this kind of darker, right? So let's say a shade of 500. That's slightly darker than our 300. And right now, if you save this, you shouldn't be able to see the shadow. So I'm just going to put in a blur radius here. There it is. And I actually want to change the offset. So offset is basically just the position of where you want the shadow to be. So it wants, as you can see, like an X and a Y. So it's kind of like a coordinate of numbers. And positive numbers are towards the bottom right, whereas negative numbers are towards the top left. So for example, if I say offset 55, you can see the shadow is going to sort of shift to the bottom right, which is what I want. And I'm just going to copy this guy and paste it down here. And instead of this gray color, let's just give it white. Okay, so we want this to be a little lighter. And the offset, I'm going to change to -5, -5. Cool, and you can see it gives this like 3D effect of this light source sort of shining down on our app, and I really like this style, so let's use this Neumorphic theme for our music player app. And actually one last adjustment is in the box decoration, let's change the border radius. I always like to make this a little curved. Cool, kind of like this. So let's just put a const tag. So we're going to use this sort of theme. Now I want to reuse this a lot in the app, so I'm just going to copy this container, or cut it rather, and let's create a new file called new box. So stands for Neumorphic box. And let's return what we had copied earlier. And so now we can come back here and you can just put in new box, and you can see it says auto import. So there it is. And if we need to make any changes to the neumorphism, we can just do it in this file. So this way we can just make our code nice and clean and also reusable. And one adjustment is I don't actually want all of these containers that I'm going to use to have a height and a width of 100. So I'm just going to get rid of this one for now. And we're also going to add here a child. So I want to be able to pass through like every other widget in Flutter. So let's just require this child. And so everything here is just a decoration. And for the child, we can just put in the child at the center. Cool. And so you can see there's a red squiggle there. So now I can just use this Neumorphic box and give it any child I want. So for example, like an icon, let's say like a menu icon, and wrap this in a sized box to control the width and the height. So we can reuse this code nicely. So now that we got that ready, in the body, I actually want to create a column overall. And let's just create a bit of a plan. So for the music player, and on the song page, at the top, I want to have a menu button as well as a back button. So let's have a back button first and menu button. And below that, we're going to have the cover art. So the sort of album art that plays right in the middle of your screen. And as well, we should also have the artist name and the song name as well, right? And below that, we're going to have some controls. So we have the start time. I want to have a shuffle button, a repeat button, and also the end time of the song. And after that, we want to have a sort of progress bar, like a linear bar that tells us how far into the song we're in. So linear progress bar. And the last thing I want is just a row of buttons again for the previous song. And then the pause play button. And then skipping to the next song. So those are the 3 buttons I'm going to put at the bottom. So let's try to do this. Starting with the back button, right? Let's put it in a row. And the first thing is a back button. So I'm going to put in a sized box. Let's say height around 80 and a width of 80 as well. And in the child, let's use our Neumorphic box. And the first icon I want to use is the back icon. So let's use the iOS icon. Cool, so there it is. And one thing I'm gonna do is wrap the column in a widget called a safe area. And so what that widget does is it just takes care of the notch. It'll just avoid the notch basically. And so there's that back button. I just want to see what other back buttons we have. Yeah, we'll just use that one. And after that, we want to have the playlist name. So I'm just going to put in a text widget and we'll just call it playlist. Okay, there it is. And I'm just going to copy this one and also put in a menu icon. Like that. Cool, and obviously it's all scrunched up to the left. So in the row, let's space this between. That's looking pretty good. And one more thing about this overall column, let's just create a padding of 20. Or maybe 25. And not for all the borders, just symmetrically and horizontally. Let's put in 25. It's looking good. These buttons actually look a lot bigger than I need them to be. So let's just change it to 60s. Looking better. Sweet, so that's done. Now I want to use a sized box again with a height of 25, just to space out these different widgets. And below that, we're going to put in the cover art. So this is where you should prepare like an image which I've got one here. So just get any random image and we're going to use it for a cover art for the song. So go to your file, and in the library, let's just create a new file, a new folder called images, and just drag your image in here. Now if we come back to our project, we should tell the code that we're bringing in an image. So go to your pubspec.yaml and scroll to the bottom to see this asset section. And I'm just going to comment this out. And we put it in library/images/. And let's save this and close that once that's done. And so here, let's bring in a Neumorphic box again. And for the child this time, we want to bring in the image. So image.asset, and we placed it in, what did I call it though? Cover art PNG. Library/images/cover art.png. And let's just save that. Cool, now that's looking good. Now one thing I just noticed is in the Neumorphic box, it's probably a good idea to just give it some padding. Like, say, 12. Yep, I like that. And coming back to this one, you can see that there's the Neumorphic box, and on top of that we've got the cover art. I actually want to make the image not so sharp. I kind of want it to align with the curviness of our app. So just this image, let's just wrap it with something called a clip rect. And the purpose of this widget is just to control the border radius. And let's go for like 8. Cool, that's looking a bit better. I wonder if we could make this a bit closer as well. Yeah, I like that. Let's just leave it like that. Okay. And what I actually want underneath the image, but still on the Neumorphic box, I want to have the artist name and the song name as well. So this clip rect, let's wrap it in a column. So that's the cover art. And below this, I want to have some text widgets. And so this will be the artist name. So Coda the friend. And another text widget and the song name. Just as an example. So you can see it's still on the platform. And actually, I also want a heart here. Like, you know how you can favorite a song? So we're going to have to put this on a row. So first thing is I'm going to copy these 2 text widgets and put it on an individual column. And this column, I'm actually going to wrap in a row. So this way I can introduce this favorite icon, like the heart there, and space the row out so that we push it to the end. And let's just clean this up a bit. So first of all, I want this to be red. Maybe make the size a bit bigger. So default is 24. Let's go with 28 or 32. Now for these text widgets, let's give it a different style. First thing is I want to make this bold. And surely we should make it bigger from a default of 14. What about 18? Okay. And let's copy this style for the song name as well. But this one, maybe we can make it slightly even bigger. And maybe the color for the artist name, we can make it gray. Bit darker gray. And you see how it's like aligned center like that? I want to change this cross-axis alignment. So in this column, let's change this cross-axis alignment to start. And that'll align to the left-hand side like this. And we're gonna need some space around here. So let's wrap this row in some padding. Let's just see what 8 looks like. That looks okay. What about 12? 12, not too bad, a bit too much I feel. Let's just go back to 8. And I want to put in spacing between these text widgets. Just a little bit. So just say 4. I like that. Maybe 6. Okay, good enough for now. And some of these constants, let's just help out the code. And the cover art section is looking pretty good. So let's move on to the next one down. So again, we sized everything out with a height of 25. And now it's time for the 4 things on top of the linear bar. So the first thing is just going to be a text widget. Say like 0, 0. And we should actually put all of this in a row. And in terms of the icons, the shuffle icon, let's just use the default one here. There should also be an icon for repeating. There it is. And the length of the song, let's say 422. Cool, there it is. And of course, we've got to space this out. Go for space between. And that's looking pretty good. What about space even? That looks a little better. And again, below that, let's space another 25 and in the linear bar. Now this one we could just make from scratch, but there is a very nice useful package to actually borrow here. So let's go to the pubspec.yaml, and under the dependencies, I'm going to add in this package. It's called %indicator. And I'm actually going to use this version number here, 3.4.0. So I made a separate tutorial just covering this package if you want to know more about it in depth, but it's actually really easy to use. So I can just show you right now. So save it in your pubspec YAML and let's close this. And for the linear bar, just start typing linear %indicator. And let's just give it a height of 10. Let's just see what that looks like. Cool, here it is. And if you just give it a %, say like 0.5, it'll just fill up 50% of that bar. So I'm just going to use this package. Now obviously we don't want to make that red, so we should be able to change the color here. Progress color, I want to go for green. Looking pretty good. And let's actually wrap this in a widget called Newbox, which is our widget that we just created at the beginning of this video. And this is looking pretty good. I like this. Which means I think we could get rid of this remaining bar, like the background bar. Let's go for transparent. Hell yeah. So later when we deal with the functionality of this, we can just control this number to know how far in the song we've progressed. So that's pretty cool. Let's grab another sized box And we're down to the last thing, which is the pause play buttons. So let's create another row. One thing I just want to show you, because I'm going to have 3 buttons here and I kind of want to proportion them out nicely. I like to use expanded widgets. And just to quickly demonstrate a nice idea, I'm just going to create an expanded container and I'll just give it a random color like red. And let's say I have 3 of these with a blue one in the middle. And also let's just give this row a height like 80. So if I save this, you can see in that space it'll just divide it evenly if you have 3 expanded widgets into thirds. And one useful property about expanded widgets is this flex property. So if you hover over it, you can see it's a default of 1. So if I say like 2, the middle one's going to be twice as big as the ones on either side. I'm going to use this to shape our buttons. So instead of a random container, let's bring in a new box. And the first one is a icon of the previous song. So do we have this? Yep, skip previous. And I'm just going to copy this. And the middle one is going to be a play button, play arrow. And then the last one is skip next. Cool, so here it is. Now I think we could put some space between there, right? In the middle guy, let's just wrap it with a padding, but symmetrically and just horizontally. Let's see what 8 looks like. Now we could go for like 20, I reckon. Cool, and I think that's looking pretty sleek. Maybe these icon sizes could get bigger, say like 32. Cool, and I think this is looking pretty good. Now just kind of looking at this overall UI after we built it, I think we could add in a like this sized box at the top as well. Or maybe this one can just be at 10. Yeah, I think that one's spaced out nicely. And the buttons at the bottom as well, let's just kind of adjust this a bit. We could go for 40 there, and also 40 here, and maybe 40 here as well. Or maybe that was too much. Let's go for 30. Cool, I think that's looking pretty good. Sweet, now I'm just going to leave it at that. Hopefully you learned a little something about how to create a UI like this and how to make it look nice and aesthetic. In terms of the functionality, obviously there's a lot to build on from here. Like, for example, if I go back to this back button, we should be able to go to a different page, you know, in the list of songs and albums. And also this play button, like all of these should be able to fill up the bar and so on. So there's a lot of functionality to build from here. But just in terms of the UI, hopefully you learned a little something. Play around with it and let me know if you have any issues. But other than that, thanks for watching and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace!